Alright, so before jumping headlong into 2023, I did want to take some time and just have a little bit of fun and talk about some of the console games that I got for Christmas. Now, here's the thing, even though I love the Steam Deck, I'm always going to be a multi-platform gamer because I've just spent too much of my life being a console gamer to just completely disregard physical collecting or anything like that. So that's what today's video is all about, is just me going over a few of the games that I got for the holidays. Now, even though all of these are on console, I will say that most of them, save for one, you can actually get on the Steam Deck. However, the one that is not natively available for the Steam Deck, I believe you can get working on the Steam Deck if you're willing to put in some emulation work, but I'm probably getting ahead of myself. So for now, let's just go ahead and kick it off with the first game, which is actually one that I bought digitally for the PS5, and now I have a physical copy of it for the collection, and that is Stray. So normally Stray is $29.99 on Steam, but because the winter sale is still in full effect, you can actually grab it for $23.99 right now. Now I actually beat this game back in July on the PS5, and I have to say I can't recommend it enough. Now there's a fuller video that I did a while back with my thoughts on the game up here in the corner somewhere if you want to check that out, but the short story is that it's a really endearing game. Playing as a cat who's been separated from your buddies in a dystopian future world that is just rife with light puzzle solving, platforming, and a whole lot of meowing. And I won't spoil too much of it here, but suffice it to say it's a short game, clocking in at maybe 6 to 10 hours depending on how much of a completionist you are. And Stray is just absolutely overflowing with furry charm, particularly after you meet your drone buddy B12, and for a game that's so focused on a cat lost in a robot's world, it is absolutely overflowing with humanity, and again, I just can't recommend it enough. And weirdly enough, the next game I got also features a furry protagonist and is also kind of a platformer now that I think about it, and that would be Sonic Frontiers. Now because Sonic Frontiers is still pretty new and normally $59.99, right now it is on sale, albeit only for $41.99. And last week when I did a video about some retro games from my past that I was emulating on deck to just sort of get into the spirit of Christmas, I specifically went out of my way to mention just how excited I was to revisit Sonic 3D Adventure, because I played it way back in the Christmas of 1999, which was actually the first time I ever had a Sonic game in my collection, and in fact, the Dreamcast was my first Sega console, period. And I gotta be honest, I sort of had that same feeling leading up to playing Sonic Frontiers. I know the reviews have been more than a little bit mixed, but I'm sorry, as someone who loves to go fast, and I would say even despite the fact that I grew up a Nintendo kid, I still have a whole lot of love for Sonic the Hedgehog. Now I've only played it a little bit so far, and while I can see some valid criticism in its mechanics, the moment-to-moment action of just blasting through this hugely expansive world really feels great, and the calmer, curiously kind of Breath of the Wild-esque sort of presentation is a really great contrast against Sonic's raw speed. And even though it's a big world, it doesn't feel empty to me the same way that Breath of the Wild didn't feel empty, rather it just feels like an appropriate amount of margin is set up between the fun things to do that really let you appreciate Sonic's freedom of movement. I just can't wait to spend more time with this one, and honestly I was so glad that my folks saw fit to get it for me for Christmas, because it was kind of like stepping right back into the Christmas of 1999. Plus, as far as I can tell so far, it seems like this is going to be one of those amazing games to just sort of jump in and chill with. Now moving on to a decidedly slower protagonist in a much different setting than I'm used to seeing him, the next game that I got was Pac-Man World Repack for the PS5. Pac-Man World normally goes for $29.99, but it is on sale right now for $19.49, and apparently this is the result of Namco wanting to get in on some of that Mario money by taking Pac-Man into a new 3D platforming genre way back in 1999 on the PlayStation. And when I was researching this game, because again I don't have a ton of familiarity with it, one of the things that I thought was interesting is apparently there was a Game Boy Advance version of this, although to be fair it was not received as well by critics as this version was. Now I'm hardly an aficionado of all things Pac-Man, but I've always enjoyed the games wherever I could play them, but this one I'm mostly unfamiliar with. I'm sure I've seen it on store shelves at some point, and for whatever reason I just totally disregarded it, but I love that Bandai Namco revitalized this with updated graphics for the modern age by giving it a, well, sort of remaster. By all accounts it's a fun, if not somewhat simple 3D platformer that's really more of a 2.5D platformer as you move into and out of the background and foreground in side-scrolling levels. Sort of like playing Super Mario 3D Land, which I absolutely loved on the 3DS. But since I haven't really had a chance to play it that much yet, I can't rightly vouch for it all the way or anything, but I have to imagine that it would at least be worth exploring a little bit if you like cartoonish platformers in this vein. And speaking of rounded 2D characters making their first outing in 3D, the next game that I got was Kirby and the Forgotten Land for the Nintendo Switch. Now I only started exploring the massive amount of Kirby games in the past couple of years or so, particularly after I got my Analog Pocket, but this one seemed pretty special because it's Kirby's first fully 3D outing. And so far I've only played the demo back when it was first released, but I really enjoyed it, particularly because it's just such a vibrant looking game on the Switch. Plus Kirby's just adorable as ever with all of the abilities you would expect him to have completely intact in his move to 3D. And in no time at all, you'll be inhaling all manner of enemies and absorbing their powers, or larger fare like cars, and become a bona fide Kerbomobile. And given my history playing Nintendo platformers around Christmas time, this was just about the perfect game to jump into, especially given that I've neglected the Switch an awful lot ever since the Steam Deck came out. And while you can't play it natively on the Steam Deck or anything, Switch emulation is supposed to be pretty great on deck. I just haven't gotten around to really exploring that yet, but hey, maybe at some point in a future video I'll go ahead and test that out and kind of see how it holds up side by side. And finally, the last game on this list is admittedly a huge cheat on my part because it's a gift that I just bought for myself because I was very excited to play it, and that is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. Now, Crisis Core is normally $49.99, and it's still $49.99 right now because, to be fair, it did just come out, so it wasn't likely to go on sale anyways. And I was so excited when this was announced because I just had such a blast playing the original version on the PSP. However, I haven't beaten it or really even spent that much time with it aside from just like some light testing of PSP emulation on the deck since I first beat it in like 2007, I think. And after 15 years or so, I am way ready to re-explore Zack's story, and I have to say this game really does hit this weird sweet spot of being both nostalgic and also serving the purpose of keeping me super hyped for the next entry in the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. So far, I fired it up long enough to get through the first opening section, and wow, it looks great. Not like next-gen great, and the cutscenes are definitely a little bit grainy since I think they were lifted from the original PSP release, but it still feels wonderful to play and has some quality of life improvements to boot, along with a, well, brilliant fresh coat of paint. Alright, so those are all of the new games that I got for Christmas, and anything else that I want to squeeze in before 2023 hits are probably going to be because I just go, again, back to the winter sale once more. But hey, what about you? What games did you get for Christmas? Anything particularly rad for the Steam Deck or otherwise? If so, let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch these videos and hang out on the channel. It really means a lot to me. Again, I cannot wait to get started in 2023 and get even more videos rolling, but for now, have an amazing day. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.